Okay, so for my presentation, I chose to do The Well of Moses by Klaus Schluter. So Klaus was born in Haarlem in the county of Holland in the mid-14th century. Schluter worked as a paid assistant to Jean de Marville, who worked on tombs for the Duke of Burgundy. In 1389, Schluter was appointed to take over for his employer, Jean de Marville, as the chief sculptor to the Duke of Burgundy in Dijon. In 1395, Klaus was commissioned by the Duke to begin work on the great sculpture to exist within the Chartreuse de Champeau, later known as the Well of Moses. Here is just a picture of the Well of Moses to give you a visual representation of the artwork. In 1395, Klaus was commissioned, like I said, by the Duke to begin working on this sculpture to exist within the grounds of the Chartreuse de Champeau, which was a Carthusian monastery in Dijon, France. This was also during the beginning of the Northern Renaissance, which eventually signaled the end of many long traditions with art and brought about the creation of humanism and the development of individual artistic expressions, which also contributed to the shift in this artistic society. The patron himself was Philip, the Duke of Burgundy, and for 100 years or so in the 14th and 15th centuries, the Duke of Burgundy ruled in power and splendor rivaling that of kings. A year or so before his own death, John II of France bestowed Burgundy on his fourth and youngest son, Philip, and named him first peer of France. At the age of 21, Philip was known as the Hardy, or the Bold, for his bravery at the age of 14 in battle at Poitiers in 1356, where he was wounded and him and his father were captured by the English under the Black Prince. As far as other artists and critiques on this work of art, I wasn't able to find a whole lot, but I found this interesting piece about how Klaus used a rather new idea in artwork. He drew the attention of his contemporaries with a small yet significant item that he made for the Old Testament prophet Jeremiah, in which he placed a pair of spectacles on his face. The book that Jeremiah holds, with its binding and the style it was made, as well as the glasses, are inventions that were unknown to Jeremiah at the time. So this was part of Klaus's own interpretation of the prophet. The glasses were used as a modern device through which Klaus was able to show something more important about Jeremiah, which alluded to 3 texts from the book of Jeremiah that talk about the tears of Jeremiah himself. So the first verse is going to be Jeremiah 9:1, which says, "Oh, that my head were a spring of water, and my eyes a fountain of tears. I would weep day and night for the slain of my people." I find this verse to be surprisingly effective in the comparison of Jeremiah's tears to the fountain, since the well was meant to signify a fountain, creating a beautiful analogy between the fountain of life and the tears shed for Jeremiah's people and their lives. The second verse is Jeremiah 13:17, which says, "If you do not listen, I will weep in secret because of your pride. My eyes will weep bitterly, overflowing with tears, because the Lord's flock will be taken captive." And the third verse, Jeremiah 14:17, "Speak this word to them. Let my eyes overflow with tears, night and day without ceasing, for the virgin daughter, my people, had suffered without ceasing. For the virgin daughter, my people, has suffered a grievous wound and a crushing blow." So these verses just allude to the tears shed by Jeremiah in the book about this prophet, and Klaus used the spectacles to draw this attention to his eyes as a way of representing those tears. The religious significance of this piece, I found the Well of Moses seemingly quite religious in significance, in the fact that the patron had it made as a centerpiece for the monastery. The piece reflects many biblical figures, including the 6 prophets, Jesus' crucifixion, along with many angelic-like figures surrounding the top portion. The piece also had an influence on other people of religion because they would take pilgrimages to see it. I was unable to find much historical or social influence or significance in this piece, other than the fact that its patron was a man of very high position in society. He patroned many similar works to be placed within his family home and the monastery, along with a great sculpture piece placed over his tomb. However, I think all art has some historical significance because of its meaning at the time, which can still be conveyed today through the preservation and admiration of the art. The technical skills. Never mind. So the way this art was made is the well was made by carvings put into stone, which was limestone, is what Klaus used, which marble and limestone were very common for sculpture at this time. Originally, the statue was gilded with metals, specifically gold, and painted blues and greens to add details. Although most of the aspects have faded over time, leaving the bare stone finish showing through. This work was done by the work of the guild, and painting were done by John Mallow and Herman of Cologne. The technical skills within this piece. So with the rising humanist atmosphere of the 15th century, Slater looked at human figures in new ways. Slater used heavy drapery and deep folds to conceal and reveal the bodies of each figure, creating strong shadows and highlights. Slater was able to maintain detailed naturalism and rich colors because he abandoned the international Gothic style of idealized faces for the particularized descriptions of each human figure. I found this artwork to be particularly effective in the idea that it was meant to represent the fountain of life. So the six-sided well of Moses, which is now lacking its crowning Calvary group, which showed the crucifixion of Christ, it was made as a symbol to represent the fountain of life, and it presents 6 life-size prophets holding books, scrolls, or both. The figures, beginning with Moses and proceeding counterclockwise to David, Jeremiah, Zechariah, Daniel, and Isaiah. Slater used alternating naturalistic balances in which Moses was placed directly below the face of Christ, and the location of Zechariah, father of John the Baptist, was at Jesus' back, as befits a precursor. Zechariah looks down sadly as Daniel vigorously points to his prophecy. On the other side of Daniel, and serving to balance Daniel's passionate temperament, is the calm, reflective Isaiah. The figures of the composition dominate the architectural framework, but also reinforce the feeling of support that this structure provides through their largeness of movement. I find that to be particularly effective in displaying the effectiveness of this art because of the fact that the piece was meant to represent the fountain of life, and Jesus Christ is the ultimate source of life both physically and spiritually. Klaus was also able to display the prophets' reaction to the crucifixion and their personalities really well. The well was also used as a site of pilgrimage when it was first made. I think the natural human lifelike depictions of the prophets and crucifixion helped the well to be effective in fulfilling its purpose.